Welcome to the playground of potential. I'm Matt the Poet, and this is my playground. So I find myself smiling now, but I wasn't smiling this morning. So today I'd like to talk to you about what happens when the day's not going well. You don't feel well. And there doesn't seem to be any real reason for it. Okay? So I'm going to use the example of my day and sort of run you through this emotional alchemy that I utilized today to make myself feel good and bring this, happy demeanor to you today, despite myself, despite how I woke up and despite how, my trajectory for the day could have gone. So what happened today? Today I woke up and it's cold as fuck inside my house. So I live in a space that's warmed by a wood fire oven, and I'm not always able to keep it going all the time. So it's really cold in here. It's 55 degrees right now in this space. And you can only imagine what it is outside for it to be 55 inside. And on top of that, the reason why it's as cold as it is in my place is because the sun's not shining through the window. So you can see in the mirror behind me that I have this array of windows that are south-facing windows, and usually they allow a lot of sunlight to come in during the winter. And one thing that I've found, anyone who has experienced or even has some inkling of seasonal affective disorder, you realize that part of what makes the winter challenging is the lack of sunlight. So when I wake up and there's a cloudy day and I won't see a cloud, I won't see the sun for the remainder of the day. From what I understand, neurobiologically speaking, my serotonin is not being converted. My melatonin is not being converted into serotonin in those instances when I'm waking up. So, and serotonin being that focus and fulfillment, so well-being neurotransmitter. And so I just kind of feel off. I wake up and I start to feel off. So I sit down with my coffee, and part of my morning routine is journaling. So this is always a great way to start my day, because if I'm in need of emotional alchemy, that's a good place to start, because this is a good place to discover exactly what's going on. What I quickly found was I had no focus, and this is a symptom of not having enough serotonin. Is your focus is off. Okay, so I found myself having a lot of difficulty stringing together my thoughts, and really bringing a cohesive writing within my journal. Any sort of narrative was just kind of evading me. And I'm writing about my emotions, and I'm writing, I'm kind of looking into, is anything emotionally going on right now that is hindering me? And the truth of the matter is that no, not really. Like, I'm not actually experiencing emotional distress right now. It's more biological than that in this particular instance. So I'm unfocused and I'm feeling off, and I recognize that in my journaling. So what do? Well, one of the tools in my tool belt is a simple movement practice. So for this instance, I just decided to, stop my writing and begin doing laps around my house. I like doing figure eights in my space. I happen to have a very large space. One of the blessings of the space is that it's large and open and I can walk around. So if I don't have access to go outside, I have plenty of space to move inside. And I begin to walk. And while I'm walking, I'm still sort of trudging in that unwell feeling. And there's a large part of me that wants to evade this feeling and go into dopaminergic pleasure. So I want to just, shovel food in my face and get on a streaming service and just like distract myself from how I feel in this moment. But I also know that I actually don't want that at all. What I actually want is to fulfill my day in a real way. And I know that if I don't make this video and another video that I've sort of committed myself to, I'm not going to feel good about the day. And there is a part of me that has often surrendered to that feeling of like, I'm just going to throw this day away and it's going to be a shitty one. But rather than judge myself for it, I'm going to just sort of lean into it and go into some of my pleasure monkey tendencies of like, I'll eat a pizza and like just try and soothe myself through dopaminergic pleasure. And that never leads to good things in general. Yes, it's like a Band-Aid and it does feel good for a period of time, but more often than not, I feel more depleted afterwards. And then the dopamine wears off, that pleasure wears off, and I'm left even in a deeper hole than I was prior to that experience because the serotonin hasn't done anything. So movement. I bring movement in, and one thing that movement is great at doing is it creates endorphins. Okay. And, I can't tell you, I'm not a neurobiologist. I can't really tell you if there's an actual equivalency between endorphins and serotonin. But what I do know is endorphins are a pleasure molecule. They are a well-being molecule within our brain. And what I found was that when my body is not properly uptaking serotonin, I can exercise and move my body to create that feeling of well-being that I'm not getting from my serotonin. And what else is happening is the blood is circulating more. I'm beginning to get my mental focus back from this movement, and it's slowly and it's surely, and I start to, I'm still not out of the funk yet. My brain's coming back, and I'm starting to inch my way into feeling a little bit better because I'm walking. I'm not doing rigorous exercise. If I had done more rigorous exercise, perhaps I would have been able to get more endorphins flowing more quickly. That pleasure molecule would have gotten me into a better state. But this slow process of coming out of this was like, okay, well, now I'm faced with how can I spend my day best? And there is still that part of me that just wants to go into the dopaminergic sort of pleasure palace and create false well-being for a moment. But I know that's not the answer. And I know that will lead to me not making this video or any video today because I'll probably just surrender to the day being a shit day. So I asked myself the question, how can I make this day a good day? Well, I have these 2 commitments of 2 videos to make today. And I know that if I make these videos, I'm going to be better off. And so with the movement and with particularly with the movement, I've begun to allow myself to focus, and then suddenly I can focus on what's going to make me fulfilled today. And then afterwards, once I'm fulfilled, that's not going to go away necessarily. And I won't have to necessarily go into those pleasure-seeking, dopaminergic arenas because I feel accomplished and I feel naturally fulfilled by getting what I need to done. So that's just like one example of my day today and one way to use emotional alchemy. It's like you dissect the problem, you try and get yourself out of the problem mindset into a solution mindset, which is what I did when I was like, well, how can I make my day better? And I use movement. movement is one of the best ways to alchemize emotion, because emotion is not quite mental and it's not quite physical. It's some subtle layer between the two, where it does exist in the body. It's energy within the body that is moving, and oftentimes you can find a location of where you're feeling what you're feeling. So it has sort of physicality, it has location, but it's not so physical, and it's often, in our culture, represented as something mental. Like a lot of emotional disorders are actually seen as mental disorders, whereas I feel like there's a subtle difference, and it's partially why I believe they're often not treated very well. But that's another story. So what happens? Let's talk about some other means of emotional alchemy. I mentioned exercise. This is great for days like this. It's great for anxious moments. So rigorous exercise, I feel like, moves the energy of anxiousness very well and can reset the nervous system extremely. Another tool that I've learned to work with anxiousness has been cold plunges. Cold plunges reset that nervous system. Using some Wim Hof method, get in there, get the nervous system, all sort of fired up, but colded up, frozen up. And you'll find that afterwards you'll be invigorated, and you'll actually have transmuted whatever sort of emotional or anxious, nervous energy is within you. Why do I bring up anxiousness? Because anxiousness doesn't necessarily always come with a cause. And what I'm focusing on in this episode is those emotional moments that don't really seem to have a cause. It could be unconscious. It could be any number of things why we're not able to easily see the cause. Like, for instance, today, 10 years ago, I may not have known why I was feeling as bad as I was today. Not recognizing that the sun plays such a significant role in my emotional state and all these various things that I've learned over the years. To me, it would have just been like, I feel bad. I don't know why. There's no real emotional trigger. And I wouldn't know what to do with it. And I've also felt this with anxiousness sometimes, where it's not like I'm anxious about something in the future. I'm anxious because something, oftentimes it's like coffee. Like I've drank too much coffee. And yeah, so those are a couple of ways in which our emotional state can be affected more on a physical level than anything else. And in those moments, you can't necessarily transmute that energy simply by expressing something, because it's not there's no emotional content there to express and move that energy. So I've found that movement, I would say, is hands down one of the best ways that we can do emotional alchemy. So now, there you go. There's some tools for you. I want to read a poem for you to end out this episode. It's called I Carry It With Me. I carry a bit of melancholy with me, so I don't have to return to the darkness. I carry it in a pouch with a pinch of loneliness. The difference between the dark times and this is acceptance. I accept the sting. I let it in, but I do not let it linger, nor do I avoid it, letting it plant roots and grow. That is one seed that I do not wish to sow. No, it is better to know the shade and let it fade than to ignore and become that which you abhor. tenebrously obsessed, possessed by potent poison, taking pallid pleasure in the paltry act of self-pity. Like Teflon for the soul, I must extol the aegis, love, a defense sent from above and within. So beneath the din of dangerous thoughts that weave a web of lies and deny what is ultimately true, you are yourself through and deserve all the pleasures and treasures of heaven and earth that have been your right since the day of your birth. Thriving is our birthright. We don't just have to survive, and we don't have to necessarily go into those dark places and stay there. So I encourage you to find your means of emotional alchemy. Use the tools that I've set out and let me know how that works for you. Because this is not conjecture. There is a deep knowing in myself because I have spent so many years wrestling with those dark energies of depression, anxiety, and just the whole array of painful emotional processes. So please try this out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like the video if you've made it this far. I imagine you probably do like the video. And share it with others because we're in very tough times. And there's plenty of darkness in this world right now that we might find ourselves emotionally struggling with. So this emotional alchemy can be so very important at this time. So please subscribe to the channel and find your way sharing it to others if you feel like there's someone out there that could benefit from this, which I personally believe is everyone, because we all have these emotional dips regardless of whether we're diagnosed with any sort of emotional or mental disorder. And especially at this time where it's just so challenging, there's a lot of us that may have not experienced many of these darker emotions for some time, but part of my journey has been stepping into those dark places and, really working with that energy for a long time. And it's given me the tools that I can now teach and bring to the world because I know it works, because it's worked for me and I've seen it work for others. And so please check out my website, playgroundofpotential.com. For all of my offerings, I've got poetry that I'm offering there. If you want a personalized poem on a topic of your choice, or if you want to send one as a gift, because, we're in that giving season. It's such a pleasure to be able to give a heartfelt gift of something like poetry to someone you love. I'd be more than happy to do that, and you can find the availability of that on my website, playgroundofpotential.com. I hope you all are well, and I hope that you find yourselves in emotionally fulfilling places. So I'm sending you so much love. Peace.